Dr. Lyra Novak stared at the holographic display floating above her workstation, her dark eyes reflecting the shimmer of genetic sequences that danced before her. The xenobiology lab aboard the International Space Station Horizon was eerily quiet at this late hour, save for the gentle hum of equipment and her own measured breathing. Something about these alien tissue samples wasn't adding up. "Computer, run the comparison analysis again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the growing excitement in her chest. The samples had come from the Kepler expedition's first contact with the Vedrani, a sophisticated spacefaring species from the Andromeda Galaxy. Their appearance was striking, tall, ethereal beings with iridescent skin and multifaceted eyes, but it was their genetic structure that had captured Lyra's attention. The computer chirped its compliance, and new data streams materialized in the air. Lyra's fingers danced through the holographic interface, manipulating complex molecular structures with practiced ease. There it was again, a pattern she'd seen dozens of times before, but never in an alien species. "Dr. Harrison, please come to Lab 3, she called over the intercom. If she was right about this, she needed another set of eyes, preferably belonging to Earth's leading expert in evolutionary genetics. Dr. James Harrison arrived minutes later, his weathered face bearing the curious expression of someone who'd been pulled away from something important. "This better be good, Lyra. I was just about to crack the mystery of why my coffee maker stopped working." "Look at this," Lyra said, expanding a particular section of the Vedrani genome. "See these sequences? They're not random. They're too perfectly structured, too familiar." Harrison leaned in, his initial skepticism giving way to focused interest. "That's impossible," he muttered, adjusting his glasses. "These markers, they're human." "Not just human," Lyra replied, pulling up a comparison chart. "They're specifically engineered human DNA sequences. The kind we've only seen in theoretical models for advanced genetic modification." The implications hung heavy in the air between them. The Vedrani weren't just another alien species, they carried within them traces of humanity's genetic fingerprint, but far more advanced than anything current human science could achieve. "We need to contact the Vedrani delegation," Harrison said, already reaching for his comm device. "If what we're seeing is real." "It's real," Lyra interrupted. "I've run the analysis 17 times. But there's more." She brought up another set of data, this time from previously studied alien species. "I started looking through our database of other xenobiological samples. The patterns are there too, just harder to spot. Different species, different galaxies, but all carrying traces of engineered human DNA." Harrison sank into a nearby chair, his face pale. "You're suggesting that some advanced human civilization, has been seeding the galaxy with modified human genetic material?" "Not just seeding," Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Creating. These species didn't evolve naturally. They were engineered, using human DNA as a foundation. The question is, who did this, and when?" The next few days passed in a blur of activity. News of their discovery spread through the scientific community like wildfire, though they managed to keep it contained within a select group of researchers. The Vedrani ambassador, Apontal, agreed to meet with them aboard the station. Apontal's arrival in the conference room was a moment Lyra would never forget. The ambassador's towering form seemed to shimmer with internal light, their multifaceted eyes taking in everything with calm intelligence. "That we have long wondered about the peculiarities in our genetic structure," Apontal said, their translated voice smooth and measured. "Our scientists noted patterns that seemed deliberate. But we never imagined they might connect us to humanity." "Ambassador," Lyra began, "we believe this goes beyond just your species. We're finding similar patterns across multiple alien civilizations. It's as if some advanced human civilization from our distant past, engineered multiple species using human DNA as a template." Apontal's skin rippled with colors that the translation matrix interpreted as intense interest. "Then perhaps this explains the dreams." Harrison leaned forward. Dreams? Throughout our recorded history, our people have experienced shared dreams of beings much like yourselves. We dismissed them as cultural mythology, but now. Apontal's eyes focused on Lyra. Dr. Novak, we have access to ancient archives, data stored in crystalline matrices that our ancestors left us. We never fully understood their contents. Perhaps, with your expertise, we could decode them together. As Lyra looked around the room at her colleagues' faces, she could see her own excitement reflected back at her. They stood on the brink of uncovering not just the origin of the Vedrani, but potentially the greatest secret in human history. Ambassador, she said, I believe this is just the beginning of a much bigger story. One that connects all of us in ways we never imagined possible. The meeting concluded with plans for a joint research initiative, but as Lyra returned to her lab that night, her mind raced with possibilities. Somewhere in humanity's forgotten past lay the key to understanding not just their own history, but the very fabric of galactic civilization. And she was determined to find it. The Martian wind howled outside the recently established joint research facility, a stark reminder that humanity wasn't the first to reshape planets in our solar system. Dr. Lyra Novak stood before a massive crystalline structure that had been unearthed beneath the red planet's surface, its surface gleaming with an inner light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the scanning equipment surrounding it. The dating puts this at roughly 300,000 years old, Dr. Harrison announced, reviewing the latest analysis results. Which is impossible, given that humanity hadn't even developed written language at that point. Ambassador Apontal moved gracefully around the crystal matrix, their iridescent skin reflecting the structure's glow. Our own archives speak of a time before consciousness, when the Shapers walked among stars. We always assumed it was religious mythology. The discovery of the Martian vault had come shortly after their groundbreaking genetic findings aboard the Horizon. Ground-penetrating radar, recalibrated to search for crystalline structures matching the Vedrani archives, had revealed a vast network of chambers deep beneath the Martian surface. Dr. Novak, called out Dr. Rami Patel, their quantum computing specialist, I think we've finally cracked the encryption sequence. You're going to want to see this. The team gathered around the main display as data began streaming across multiple screens. The crystal matrix was a database, but unlike anything they'd seen before. It stored information in quantum states, allowing for vast amounts of data to be contained within its crystalline structure. It's some kind of record, Lyra said, her eyes scanning the translated text. A message from us. From humanity. But not the humanity we know. The message began to play, a holographic figure materializing before them. The being appeared human, yet somehow more refined, evolved. Her name was Director Anastasia Reyes, and she spoke of a civilization that had existed on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago. If you're accessing this archive, then the great experiment has succeeded, the hologram stated. Humanity faced a choice, evolution or extinction. Our sun was dying, far earlier than it should have. We had perhaps 1,000 years before Earth would become uninhabitable. Not enough time to develop conventional interstellar travel for our entire population. Lyra felt her heart racing as the ancient human continued. Instead, we chose a different path. Project Diaspora, the systematic engineering of humanity into multiple species, each adapted to different environments across the galaxy. We couldn't save humanity as we were, but we could ensure our children would survive, evolve, and thrive among the stars. The hologram showed images of massive ships leaving Earth, carrying genetic templates and terraforming equipment. We seeded thousands of worlds with engineered versions of humanity. Each new species was designed to survive in their specific environment, their memories of Earth and their original form buried deep within their genetic code, waiting to be awakened when they reached the appropriate level of technological advancement. Apontal's skin had turned a deep blue, a sign of profound emotion in their species. We are all children of Earth, they whispered. Different branches of the same tree. The database contained detailed records of each engineered species, including the Vedrani. Their iridescent skin had been designed to harvest stellar radiation, their multiple eyes adapted for the unique light spectrum of their homeworld. Every alien species they'd encountered had been similarly customized, yet all carried the basic template of humanity within their genes. But why Mars? Harrison asked, studying the facility's schematics. Why leave this information here? Another section of the database provided the answer. Mars had been chosen as a waypoint, a neutral ground where different species might one day meet and discover their common heritage. The facility contained not just historical records, but a complete database of all engineered species and their intended evolutionary paths. There's more, Rami called out, his voice tight with excitement. The database contains coordinates, locations of other archives scattered throughout the galaxy. And, instructions for accessing dormant genetic memories within each species. Lyra felt the weight of history pressing down upon her. They hadn't just discovered their origins, they'd found a map leading to countless other human offshoots among the stars. Each alien civilization they'd encountered was another chapter in humanity's grand diaspora, another branch of their family tree. We need to convene the Galactic Council, Apontal said firmly. This knowledge, it changes everything. All our conflicts, our prejudices, our assumptions about our places in the universe, they're based on ignorance of our shared heritage. It's more than that, Lyra replied, studying a particular section of data. These genetic markers, the dormant memories, they're becoming active. The ancient humans who engineered us, they knew this day would come. They wanted all their children to remember their origins once they were ready. As if in response to her words, Apontal suddenly staggered, their skin flickering with rapid color changes. The dreams, they gasped. They're not just dreams. They're memories. Memories of Earth, of humanity, of home. The implications were staggering. Across the galaxy, different species would begin experiencing these awakening memories. The question wasn't just how they would handle this knowledge, but how it would reshape the future of all their civilizations. The children of humanity were about to remember their parents, and nothing would ever be the same. The Galactic Council chamber aboard the massive space station Unity was filled to capacity. Representatives from over 30 spacefaring civilizations gathered in an unprecedented emergency session. Dr. Lyra Novak stood at the central podium, surrounded by holographic displays showing genetic data and historical records from the Martian archive. The evidence is irrefutable, she declared, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her words. Every species represented in this chamber shares a common ancestor, humanity. We are all products of the most ambitious genetic engineering project ever conceived. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, translations streaming through everyone's neural interfaces. The Calaxians, with their crystalline bodies, sparked with agitation. The serpentine nexari coiled tightly around their hover platforms. Even the usually stoic Vedrani delegation showed signs of distress, their skin rippling with waves of color. First speaker Thax of the Calaxians rose, light refracting through his crystalline form. Our sacred texts speak of the crystalline transformation, when our ancestors chose to become one with the minerals of our homeworld. Are you suggesting this was engineered? Yes, Lyra responded, bringing up detailed genetic sequences. Your ability to incorporate crystal matrices into your cellular structure was deliberately designed to help you survive on a world rich in mineral resources but poor in organic compounds. It was an adaptation, not a natural evolution. The Nexari representative, Sith, uncoiled slightly. The dream memory plague spreading through our populations, these are not hallucinations, are they? Dr. Harrison stepped forward. No. They're genetic memories, deliberately encoded into your DNA by the ancient humans who engineered each species. They're activating now because we've reached a specific technological threshold, exactly as planned. The chamber fell silent as a new hologram materialized, another message from Director Reyes, recovered from the Martian archive. Her image looked upon the gathered representatives with an expression of pride and hope. To our children among the stars, she began, if you're seeing this, then you've discovered your true heritage. The universe is vast and often hostile. We knew that no single form of humanity could survive in all its varied environments. So we became many, each adapted to thrive in different corners of the galaxy. But we encoded within each new species the capacity to remember, to understand, and to reunite when the time was right. Ambassador Apontal moved to stand beside Lyra. We've confirmed that these awakening memories are occurring simultaneously across all known civilizations. The genetic triggers are synchronized, suggesting this reunion was carefully planned. But why, demanded the Calaxian first speaker. Why fragment humanity only to have us remember our origins millennia later? Lyra navigated through the archive data to a specific section. The ancient humans believed that diversity was crucial for survival. By splitting into multiple species, each adapted to different environments and developing unique technologies and perspectives, humanity's chances of long-term survival increased exponentially. But they also wanted to ensure that when we reached a sufficient level of advancement, we could share our diverse experiences and innovations. The implications were staggering. Every technological breakthrough, every unique adaptation, every cultural innovation developed by the various species had been part of a grand experiment in parallel evolution. Now, with the activation of their genetic memories, they could share and combine their advancements in ways their ancestors had only dreamed possible. Dr. Patel's voice came urgently through Lyra's comm link. Dr. Novak, we've detected something in the Martian archive. There's a hidden chamber, massive in scale, sealed behind quantum locks. The access codes are embedded in the combined genetic memories of all species present. Lyra looked out at the assembled representatives, understanding dawning in her mind. We were meant to return here together, she announced. Whatever our ancestors left in that chamber, it requires all of us, all the children of humanity, to access it. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. The initial shock and disbelief had given way to curiosity and purpose. They were no longer just separate species discovering a shared ancestry, they were pieces of a puzzle finally coming together. I propose, Apontal addressed the council, their skin glowing with determination, that we form a joint expedition to the Martian facility. Whatever our ancestors left for us, they clearly intended it to be discovered by all their children together. The motion passed unanimously. As Lyra watched the representatives coordinate their efforts, she couldn't help but marvel at how quickly ancient rivalries and prejudices were being set aside in the face of this revelation. They were witnessing the birth of a new era, one where the children of humanity would finally reunite and fulfill their ancestors' vision of a diverse yet united galactic civilization. The descent into Mars' depths felt like a journey through time itself. Representatives from each major species had gathered in the massive excavation chamber, their diverse forms illuminated by the soft glow of ancient crystals lining the walls. Dr. Lyra Novak led the way, accompanied by Apontal and a team of researchers from across the galaxy. The genetic resonance is getting stronger, reported Tal, a Nexary biosensor specialist, their serpentine form weaving through the air. All species present are experiencing increased memory activation. The massive doors to the hidden chamber loomed before them, their surface a complex lattice of crystalline patterns and quantum-locked mechanisms. 30 different genetic markers were required, one from each major species, to unlock it. It's time, Lyra announced, stepping forward. Everyone to your designated positions. They arranged themselves in a circle around the door, each representative placing their hand or appendage on a designated sensor panel. The chamber hummed with energy as ancient machinery awakened, scanning their genetic codes. The door began to move, not simply opening but transforming, its crystalline structure flowing like liquid metal. Beyond lay a vast spherical chamber that defied the known laws of physics. It was larger inside than the surrounding space should have allowed. Quantum spatial manipulation, breathed Dr. Harrison in awe. They had mastered it. At the chamber's center floated a massive holographic projection of the galaxy, but unlike any they had seen before. It showed not just the present, but layers upon layers of historical data, the paths their ancestors had taken, the worlds they had seeded, the careful plans they had laid across hundreds of thousands of years. Director Reyes's hologram appeared once more, but this time it was different, fully interactive, powered by a quantum consciousness that had waited millennia to be awakened. "Welcome home, children of humanity," she said, her smile warm and knowing. "What you see before you is the Nexus, a repository of all human knowledge and achievement before the diaspora, combined with the accumulated data from every species' development since then." The holographic display shifted, showing technologies beyond their current understanding, clean energy systems that could power entire galaxies, transportation methods that ignored conventional spacetime, medical advances that could reshape life itself. "But this is more than just a library," Reyes continued. "It's a key to humanity's final gift to its children. Each of your species developed unique approaches to science, art, philosophy, and survival. Together, these diverse perspectives create a complete picture, one that unlocks possibilities none could achieve alone." The chamber began to hum with increasing energy as new data streams appeared, connecting the genetic memories awakening in each species with the Nexus itself. Every individual present felt knowledge flooding their consciousness, not overwhelming, but integrating naturally, as if remembering things long forgotten. "The dreams," Apontal gasped, their skin blazing with patterns never before seen. "They're not just memories of the past, they're blueprints for the future." Lyra understood then. The ancient humans hadn't just preserved their knowledge, they had created a system that would combine it with everything their children had learned and discovered in their separate developments. Each species' unique adaptations and innovations were pieces of a greater whole. The Calaxians' mastery of crystalline technology, the Nexaries' understanding of bioquantum mechanics, the Vedranis' advances in stellar engineering, all of it had been guided, subtly influenced by the genetic memories laying dormant in their DNA. Now, as these memories fully awakened and combined through the Nexus, new possibilities emerged. "This chamber is a synthesis engine," Dr. Harrison realized, studying the streams of data. "It's combining all our species' knowledge and capabilities into something new. Something more." Director Reyes nodded. "Humanity couldn't survive as a single species, but we could evolve into many, each developing in unique ways. Now you have all reached the point where those separate paths can converge again, not to return to what we were, but to become something greater than we ever imagined." The implications were staggering. The combined knowledge and capabilities of all human-derived species, enhanced by technologies their ancestors had left waiting for this moment, would revolutionize their understanding of the universe itself. "There's more," Tal announced, their biosensors detecting new patterns in the data. "The Nexus is showing other chambers like this, hidden throughout the galaxy. This isn't the only repository." Lyra looked at the assembled representatives, seeing in their varied faces and forms the same sense of wonder and purpose. They stood at the dawn of a new age, one where the children of humanity would finally understand their full potential and face the universe's greatest challenges together. Should I continue with the final part, where we explore how this discovery transforms galactic civilization and sets the stage for humanity's next great evolutionary leap? 1 year after the activation of the Martian Nexus, the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The Unity space station, once a simple meeting place for diplomatic relations, had evolved into a sprawling metropolis of intersecting cultures and technologies, its architecture reflecting the combined aesthetic sensibilities of 30 different species. Dr. Lyra Novak stood at the observation deck, watching ships of various designs moving through the newly established quantum gates, transportation technology that had emerged from the synthesis of multiple species research. Beside her, Apontal's iridescent form seemed to shimmer with barely contained excitement. "The first seed ship launches today," the Vedrani ambassador said. "A joint mission to explore beyond the galactic barrier. Something none of our species could have achieved alone." The ship they watched was unlike anything that had existed before the discovery. Its hull incorporated Calaxian crystal matrices, Nexari bioquantum processors, and Vedrani stellar harvesting technology. The crew represented members from every major species, their combined abilities making them uniquely suited to face the unknown. Director Reyes would be proud, Dr. Harrison said, joining them at the window. His hair had grown grayer over the past year, but his eyes sparkled with the energy of someone half his age. We're not just fulfilling their vision, we're exceeding it. The awakening of genetic memories across all species had led to more than just technological advancement. Cultural barriers had dissolved as shared ancestral experiences created bridges of understanding. Ancient conflicts, rooted in perceived differences, faded in the light of their common heritage. The Nexus had revealed something else, a pattern in their separate evolutionary paths that suggested an even greater purpose. Each species' unique adaptations, when combined through the quantum synthesis engine, pointed toward a new possibility: controlled evolution. The latest data from the synthesis engine is remarkable, Lyra said, pulling up a holographic display. The genetic templates we've decoded suggest our ancestors foresaw not just our reunion, but our next transformation. The display showed intricate molecular structures, a framework for a new form of life that could incorporate the strengths of all human-derived species. Not a return to their original human form, but an evolution towards something far more advanced. The Great Convergence, Apontal mused, using the term that had become common across galactic civilization. Not just of knowledge and technology, but of life itself. The first volunteers had already begun the process, undergoing careful genetic modification using the combined expertise of all species. The results were extraordinary: beings who could adapt their physical form at will, integrate with both organic and crystalline technology, and perceive reality across multiple quantum states. We found 17 more Nexus chambers across the galaxy, Dr. Harrison reported, scrolling through recent data. Each one contains unique pieces of the puzzle. Our ancestors didn't just scatter their children among the stars, they created a vast network of knowledge and capabilities that could only be fully realized when we came together. The station's quantum comm system chimed, announcing an incoming transmission from the seed ship. The vessel's captain, a hybrid being who embodied aspects of multiple species, appeared in holographic form. Final preparations are complete, they announced. We're ready to make history. As they watched the seed ship enter the quantum gate, disappearing in a flash of light that rippled across spacetime, Lyra reflected on how far they'd come. The discovery that had begun in her small lab aboard the Horizon had unleashed a cascade of changes that would forever alter the course of life in the galaxy. What do you think we'll find out there? Apontal asked, their skin reflecting the colors of the quantum gate's energy signature. I don't know, Lyra replied, smiling. But for the first time, we're truly ready to face it together. We're no longer just the children of humanity, we're the architects of its next great chapter. The quantum gate pulsed again as more ships followed the seed ship's path. Beyond the galactic barrier lay mysteries their ancestors could only dream of. But now, united in purpose and capability, the diverse children of humanity were ready to embrace their destiny among the stars. In laboratories, academies, and research centers across the galaxy, the work of understanding and implementing their ancestors' legacy continued. The Great Convergence was more than just a single moment of discovery, it was an ongoing process of growth, adaptation, and evolution. As night fell on the artificial day cycle of Unity Station, lights twinkled across its vast expanse like stars in a metallic sky. In offices, homes, and gathering places, beings of all species worked, lived, and dreamed together, their differences now celebrated as essential parts of a greater whole. The story that had begun with a curious genetic marker in an alien tissue sample had blossomed into the greatest adventure in the history of consciousness. Humanity had not died out, it had transformed, diversified, and now, finally, reunited in forms its ancestors could scarcely have imagined. The future stretched before them, infinite in its possibilities, waiting to be shaped by the combined wisdom, creativity, and determination of all humanity's children. Together, they would write the next chapter in the greatest story ever told, the ongoing evolution of life itself.